possible by the donations and services provided by Charlottesville Area Community Foundation, Community Endowment, Hollywood Theater Lab, Lighthouse Studio. What's going on, Seaville? I'm your host, Lana Young. Did you know that you had access to beautiful, fresh produce from over 80 farmers within 100 miles of Charlottesville? Well, you do, and the local food hub is here and on the show tonight to tell us all about it. Executive Director Kristen Suokko is going to tell us how they are helping small farms be more viable and how they are trying to improve local consumer access to local produce. I'm not kidding, it's a really yummy idea. So stick around, we've got a little teaser for you. Take a look.
My name is Steve Fargo, and I run the local food hub educational farm at Maple Hill. Local food hub, to me, was an opportunity to create a better life for farmers. Just being able to produce fantastic quality vegetables, and also I would have to say that working with my coworkers on this farm has been an absolutely smashing experience. I work with 4 wonderful new friends. They're from Bhutan. They came to Charlottesville from refugee camps in Nepal.
Buddhist people, the government is not good, so that we are coming here, and then we live refugee who are coming here. In our country, less people, small country, less people, less vehicles, everything less, so that it's better.
The skills in their method of work and their camaraderie have made a massive difference to this farm operation and also to me personally. It's been a really wonderful friendship and a wonderful boost in our productivity.
My name is Emily Manley, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for the local food hub. Charlottesville is a really special place to be thinking and working on food issues because we have a really supportive community that understands food system issues on kind of a complex level, and so it's a great place to get community support and involvement in these kind of projects.
This time of year on the farm is always extremely busy. It can get out of hand really quickly. Things start to grow very fast when the sun starts shining and the rains come. Right now we're harvesting lettuce today. That's the big job going on. We're picking about, I'd say, 220 to 250 pounds of leaf lettuce that's going to be processed into a mesclun mix. We're going to harvest it, put it in baskets, wash it, sanitize it, dry it, and then we're going to pack it and get it ready for the wholesale market. So it'll be delivered to the warehouse on Monday morning early, and most likely it's going to be in the hands of the consumer by Tuesday, midday.
The way our food system is set up today, it's really, really challenging to be a small family farmer and get your food into places like UVA Hospital or the public schools. There are a lot of regulations and red tape and barriers that as a small individual farmer, it's just not even possible for you to break through. But we buy food directly from our farmers and we aggregate it in our warehouse, and then we deliver it to those large institutional buyers. And so what that does is open up a large, consistent market for farmers to sell their food, and one that they weren't able to access before. It also can save them time and money, because instead of having to drive around town for an entire day making a $20 delivery here and a $50 delivery there, they can come to our warehouse and make one huge delivery of their food, and then they can go back and do what they do best, which is be out on the farm growing amazing food.
Welcome to the show, Kristen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. I know you guys are so busy because you work for the most amazing organization in the world. Well, that's just my opinion. Let's start out with the website. I just want to give you a compliment on the website. It was really a beautiful interface. It's clean, it's fresh, it's entertaining. It's really well done, and it made it a pleasure to find out about you.
Thank you.
So good job on that one. The mission of the local food hub is to improve small farm viability, right? And increase community access to local food. Now that sounds very simple, but it is not a simple system or process at all. On your website, you have this really cool little illustration that shows from the farm to the plate, and it talks about the local food supplies being purchased by the local food hub, correct?
Correct.
And then from there, you're supplying local demand and with local fresh produce.
Yes.
So what makes you different from a food distributor?
Well, our mission is to help small farms. Most small farmers don't have access to wholesale markets like the one that we provide. And the reasons for that are actually many. A lot of it has to do with simply time, prohibitive rules from institutions about health and food safety and those kinds of liability, all of those kinds of things. So there are many prohibitions that keep small farmers from accessing wholesale markets. We believe that small farmers should be able to access those markets, and that those kinds of institutions absolutely should be making a commitment to local food. There's the other end of it, which is the institutions that have a very hard time dealing with lots of smaller producers and lots of different contracts and things. So we provide kind of the one-stop shop for these two parts of the local food system to come together.
So who decided that? Was it a farmer one day that said, enough, we need to make this work? I mean, it took someone to say, how do we fix this, right?
Well, it was a community effort. There was a sort of a study group that involved lots of different sectors of the local food system. This was about 5 years ago, and looked at where the gaps were, and this was definitely one that was identified. But it really came from some local businesses. One in particular, Feast, which is owned by Kate Collier and Eric Gertner, noticed that there were a lot of small farmers coming with their produce, wanting to sometimes more than Feast could take, or wanting to know how they could sell their produce, and then large institutions calling them and saying, how can we access local food? We're having a big event, and we would like to, so they really saw the disconnect firsthand. And so between those two things, that's really where the idea was born.
That's fascinating. So is the food hub idea a new idea being pioneered in Charlottesville, or is it a model that you adopted, or?
Yes and yes. Okay. The answer to that is that there are food hubs scattered across the country. There is a tremendous amount of attention being paid to local food. I mean, I'm sure you've noticed it in the trends in the media. Yes. And so forth. People are recognizing the environmental and the social and the economic value of local food. So there are food hubs all over the country. However, each one is very unique to the community in which it was formed. And so, no two food hubs are alike. Some of them are for-profit businesses, and some of them are community-supported organizations like ours. Some of them have been around for, 10, 15, 20 years. Some of them are, brand new. So.
Well, that's wonderful. So then you may sort of be pioneering an idea here that another food hub initiative might look upon and say, well, this would work for our community. You actually offer consulting, don't you?
We do. We actually take part in several study groups and other kinds of kind of information exchanging kinds of efforts. We do welcome people coming to Local Food Hub and touring our facilities and learning about what we do.
Yeah, great. Well, the structure is you've got distribution, and then you've got grower services, right? Mm-hmm. And then community access, which is sort of the one number to call, which is what you just mentioned. Can you talk a little bit about the big effort of the distribution? And what it took for you to be able to offer that, like in space, etc.?
Yes, well, so the distribution is really the crux of what Local Food Hub does, and so it started with an in-kind warehouse donation at a facility out in Ivy, Virginia, and then one leased Penske truck, and a handful of farmers who were willing to sell their produce, and 2 staff, literally at the very beginning. Within a very short time, that whole operation had just expanded. We now serve 80 different growers, a network of more than 80 growers. We sell to over 150 institutions. We donate food. We can get to all of that. But the warehouse operation is really something. So we've got now we've got several drivers, several people employed out there at the warehouse. We were able to get some community support to put in refrigeration and freezer space, so now we can supply frozen meats and keep a lot of our produce fresh. So it's really quite an operation. I highly recommend going to visit it at some point.
I would definitely love to. Grower services. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, our model and really most food hub models are really based on the premise that it's all about relationships, and that you really need to know where your food comes from. You have to know who's growing it, and what they're all about, and how they got into the business, and so forth. So in addition to having one-on-one relationships with all our growers and seeing them day in and day out when they come and bring the produce, we also recognized that to be successful and navigate the wholesale market, there were a lot of support services that would be really useful. So we developed a whole program around providing some of those services, and they include things like workshops on natural pest management or sustainability practices. We help growers get water tests. We help them explore the certification process for either organic or different kinds of certifications. We help with all kinds of different business planning. We also do production planning every year with them. So unlike other distributors, again, a distinction with normal wholesale distributors, we do a whole production planning process where we look at last year's numbers, we try to predict what we think where we're going to grow, and then farmers know that they can plant.
I'm sure the farmers were like, hallelujah.
That produce, the response has been very, very positive. I mean, we can't necessarily guarantee, but
of course.
Almost always we're able to purchase most of what they
they went
produce.
From probably feeling very alone to all of a sudden very important and respected, acknowledged, and supported. So.
Yeah, no, it's really wonderful, and we provide networking services for them. So if you're busy on a farm day in and day out, you're not necessarily having the opportunity to network with, with other small farmers.
Right.
You do at farmers markets and things like that, but there just aren't that many opportunities. So this also provides an opportunity for them to network with one another.
And I love the fact that the community access, the one number to call, just ties it all together, because like you said, they're walking in with their little boxes going by, they're not necessarily salespeople, they're not marketing people, they really are given the opportunity now because of you guys to just focus on what they do best.
Exactly. And one of our principles related to community access is that everyone should have equitable access to local food. So we do a lot in the area of food donations. We donate food both from the warehouse and from our own farm, which I'm sure we will also talk about, but to the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, to the Haven, to other organizations, serving the community, so that everybody has access to fresh local food.
Fresh local food. And you said something earlier about knowing where your food comes from, and I went to your list of farmers, which is very impressive, and a lot of them are hyperlinks to more information about them. And I thought, well, let me take a look and see what's so important about knowing where my food is from. And I took a look at Buffalo Creek beef, and the first thing I read was that it can take up to 55 different animals to make one 4-ounce patty at your local fast food restaurant. And I thought, 55 animals for a little burger? And of course, Buffalo Creek Meat is very proudly sort of stating that they are a one-steer burger. Which I just love that.
Right.
But I wouldn't have known that.
Right.
You know, and I'm sure
Right.
there's a big difference between getting it from a very carefully taken care of cow, beef,
Yeah.
source, than just
Absolutely.
bits from whatever's left over.
Absolutely.
So-
Presumably from a factory farm.
Right.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
Again, there's the whole humane thing. So you're kind of
Right.
helping animals too.
Right.
I mean, so it was fascinating, and I loved it, and I really suggest that our viewers go and check out their list of farms to just educate themselves on where your food is coming from and why it's important to know. So thank you for that. Now, you guys are nonprofit, and someone would look at that and say, well, this is the perfect opportunity to make a boatload of money because it's such a huge operation. So how do you operate if you're not out to make money?
Well, our first
Per se.
priority is the farmer. So the first step in the entire process is making sure that we provide the farmer with the best price possible for their food within the sort of the wholesale context. We can't match prices that they might get direct to retail at a farmer's market, say.
But you can make a bigger,
But we can make
cast
a bigger
net,
we
right?
can cast a bigger net. So that's step number one. We then take responsibility for the product. It then is ours, and it sits in our warehouse, and it is our responsibility to then get it out into the community and the institutions. So at that point, it becomes a sales, operation. And, much of the time we can, we can make a small margin. We have sort of a service charge, but it is
Right.
certainly not a profit-making venture
Right.
at this point. And because, as I've said before, it's all based on relationships. So there is an awful lot of staff time that goes into just maintaining those building and maintaining those
No doubt.
relationships, which is a very different model from your average for-profit wholesale operation. So that's number one. That's how the distribution aspect of it works. We are also only 4 years old, so we are still very much investing in infrastructure and in staff. Constant challenges, a lot of weather challenges last year,
yeah.
a derecho that shut our warehouse down for 10
my
days.
gosh.
So we're constantly dealing with those kinds of challenges. So we're continually investing. But then there is the whole spectrum of nonprofit services that we provide. All of our grower services, and then everything that we do out at our farm.
That's right.
And so, so whether or not the actual mechanism for this kind of, sales of local food someday becomes profitable, there'll always be a nonprofit component if we are going to provide farmers with services, maintain these relationships.
Yeah,
That's always going to need community support.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So fundraising, grants, I'm assuming,
Yes.
and lots of volunteers, right?
Yes, all of the above, and assistance from the state agricultural services, and sometimes the federal USDA. Yeah, whole variety of different sources.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, but very much a community supported organization.
Did anyone ever tell you that it wasn't possible? Did anyone ever sort of say, "Oh, come on, it's a pipe dream. No one, cares that much," or did you have support right from the get-go?
I think it was pretty well supported right from the beginning. I mean, I think there have been, the question that you just posed: should it be for profit? Should it be nonprofit? What exactly does a hybrid organization like this look like over the long term? I think there have been, very valid questions about that, but I don't think anyone ever said this is going to fail. And
That's what I love about Charlottesville, right?
Exactly,
Seriously.
exactly.
I mean, things happen here,
Exactly,
and everyone's
yeah.
like, "Yeah, why not? Of course it can happen."
And it was very much supported from the get-go.
So I'm glad you brought up hybrid. So that's what you mean by hybrid, that it's sort of,
It's got an earned income revenue stream, but it is a registered nonprofit.
and is that a sort of new term in the nonprofit world?
It is, yeah. More and more nonprofits are both under pressure from their donors, but also recognizing the need, are operating more and more with business principles and and sort of business standards, and so and more of them are actual hybrid organizations. So
That's great. I think it makes sense.
it does make sense.
It makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
So we know that consumers benefit from the local food hub, and the farmers benefit hugely. We talked a little bit about some of your range of services. I would love to find out a little more of some of your other programs, if we can talk about that. I mean, there was one particularly that stood out to me, and that was the International Rescue Committee. Can you talk a little bit about the refugee community and how they're benefiting? And how we're benefiting from them?
Right, absolutely. So one component of Local Food Hub is that we have access to a lovely farm, the farm at Maple Hill out near Scottsville, and that farm serves as a wonderful source of locally sourced produce, and it also provides training, employment, and educational opportunities for growers and farm workers. And I guess it was about 2 years ago now, we formed a relationship with the International Rescue Committee, which has an employment program. Many refugees who come through the IRC come from farming backgrounds. They come from agricultural backgrounds in their own countries.
Bonus.
And you know, and they find themselves in the center of Charlottesville, you know, with not a spit of land.
Right.
So they were able to place 3, we've had 4 at certain times, refugees from Bhutan out at our farm. And they have proven to be just the most wonderful assets to the farm. They've got incredible talents. They're learning American Virginia agricultural techniques. They're learning how to operate equipment. One of them even learned how to drive since he's been employed at the farm. So, so it's just been this wonderful win-win situation, and we're able to provide them with, you know, a steady paycheck, access to local food, a community, and training. And so it's really been a wonderful relationship, and we hope to do more.
I think it's a wonderful idea. It's a perfect marriage. And in fact, I think our Lighthouse roving reporters covered that in our short movie that we got of the educational farm. There was also the Boys and Girls Club pop-up markets. I'm fascinated by that idea too, because obviously that benefits at-risk youth.
In many ways, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. So that, you know, that's really part of our mission to get more local food into the community. This was a program that gives Boys and Girls Club members an opportunity to learn about food, but also learn sales techniques and learn about money and business and, you know, all of those kinds of things. And it provides the community around the Boys and Girls Club with the opportunity to purchase local food. So it was a wonderful program last summer, and we're hoping to do it again this summer.
Do the kids enjoy it? Do they seem to enjoy it?
I think
do
they do.
Understand the benefit of?
I think they do. Yes, more and more. And you know, there are several local organizations who are working with them. There are cooking classes and cooking clubs, and you know, a whole variety of programming there. So I think the combination of all that, yeah, I really do. I think kids instinctively understand the difference between fresh food and
that's wonderful.
Packaged food.
And just pop-up markets in general, how does that work? Do you have to get a license to do that? I mean, is it pop-up in certain communities, or is it outside grocery stores?
Well, in this case, it was just in this case it was on the property of, you know, of the Boys and Girls Club. So it just, you know, it depends where they are or who you're you know, who you're partnering with. You couldn't just start a pop-up market, you know, on the downtown mall. Right. But the, you know,
well, you could, but
you could, but yeah. But the, you know, but the reason they're called pop-up markets is because they're, you know, they're not permanent.
Right.
They, you know, they may not even be that regular, but they're there and available to the community when you know, when they're needed, and and when there's lots of produce.
And there's tons of other programs, and we could talk about them all night, but I, again, to the viewers, suggest you go and look at all of the programs that they're involved in. I also just want to talk about all of the places that you are in, for lack of a better way of putting that. I mean, you're in over 150, or have relationships with over 150 businesses, institutions, restaurants, schools, UVA, the Albemarle County schools, the city schools. Martha Jefferson Hospital. I mean, it's really impressive. How do they benefit from working with the local food hub?
Well, again, it's the opportunity for them to have, you know, one place to call. The way it actually works is every week on Monday morning they receive an email that has our featured products and then our price list and our availability list for everything that's coming in, and they are able to place their orders, you know, at the beginning of the week or, you know, on any given day, and our, you know, warehouse folks pack up the orders and get them to where they need to go. So it's just a very convenient.
Are the prices better for them as well? I mean, does it have anything to do with that, or is it just mainly the convenience and the fact that they're supporting local farmers?
And the fact that the fact that they're able to feature local food and get the, you know, for a restaurant, being able to get the freshest, most wonderfully grown.
Yeah, I didn't even mention the restaurants that you're in.
Yeah, right. So for a restaurant, it's a matter of quality and convenience. And for, you know, larger institutions, it's the ability to access fresh food, support the local economy, and, you know, and have one place where they can go to do it.
Well, I think it's absolutely amazing. I do. I think the local food hub is my new favorite organization. Now, we're going to wrap up. Any little anecdotes or happy ending stories you want to share with us?
Oh,
happy customer. I mean, sure, there's tons of them.
Yeah, there are.
Anything that stands out to you?
There are so many. It would be hard to know where to begin. Yeah, you know, there is one story that I really like quite a lot, which has to do with an orchard out in Nelson County that was having it's a very successful orchard, but was having trouble with its kind of undersized apples. They're very hard to sell in any kind of commercial, you know, retail outlet. They just didn't know what to do. We, meanwhile, were developing relationships with, you know, all of these different schools who are trying to get more local food into the schools, but under extremely tight budget circumstances. 95 cents for all the ingredients for, you know, a student's lunch on any given day, and you know, we were able to match them up, and these perfect little kid-size apples are now in schools, and you know, the orchard now has a place to send them. So, yeah.
Good eye. Website so that people can visit you?
Localfoodhub.org.
And we'll have that magically appear at the bottom of the screen. Well,
Great.
Thank you so much, Kristen, for everything that you do.
Thanks for your
Keep it
enthusiasm.
going. I absolutely love it, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show.
Great.
And thank you for watching another episode of What's Going on Seville, and thank you for supporting Kids Making Television with Lighthouse Studio. If your children are interested in television production or filmmaking, please contact Dina at lighthousestudio.org. See you next time.
There's a big white ghost in your brain.